Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Today we're gonna be having a look at some spicy and interesting weaponry from our beloved universe of 40k. And I'm considering making this into a series if you guys and girls find this interesting. We can make it a short format, or I would love to go into great details with every single weapon to explain how they might function. I might actually do that. But anyways, let's get into the video. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And in a war, every warrior can change the tide of battle with bravery and weaponry. These blades carve history and the very face of the galaxy, forged not of mere metal, but of faith, fate, theft, sorrow, and stolen years. From a Tau rebel's cursed blade to the Eldari's desperate hope against the Chaos God to ancient imperial relics, these weapons are some of the mightiest tools of war and wielded by those with the might to claim them, and a few of those who actually deserves it. The Dawnblade's origin is lost to time. Found as a relic of a long-extinct alien race, this weapon is made from chronomatic and anti-warp technologies. It was found and wielded in desperation, as Tau Commander Farsight wrenched it from a statue when he for the first time fought against Chaos Demons. Too massive to be wielded by any unaugmented Tau, it had to be integrated into his battlesuit, where it now allows him to parry warp-born claws and shear through demonic flesh with no issue. Now, wielded by Farsight, it flickers with strange energies each time it claims a life, as, unbeknownst to him, every living being slain by this blade surrenders part of their remaining natural lifespan to the wielder. A decade here, a few years there, and that is why Farsight endures beyond 3 centuries, far past any Tau's lifespan. Each kill buys him more time to defy the empire that he once served. Long before the fall, the crone goddess Morai Hek allowed Cain to sever her hand so she could drink her own divine blood and gain ultimate wisdom. From her finger bones, the smith god Vol forged these 5 crone swords, relics of faith, death, sorrow, and souls. United, they promise dominion over life and death, the key to fully awaken Ynit, the nascent god of the dead, and the potential shattering of Slaanesh's grip forever. Urain, emissary of Ynit, once bore a Drukhari husk blade. These are blades that turn their victim essentially to a dried up mummy. She was mortally wounded in Comorag's Night of Revelations, where she was reborn through Ynit's power and became the emissary. Her blade transformed, becoming Kavir, the Sword of Sorrows. As I mentioned earlier, each of these blades are forged from Morai Hek's bones and are later infused with Ynit's essence during Urain's ascension. It has become her signature weapon, where her left hand reformed as a blood-red gauntlet. Now the slightest touch reduces foes to ashes as their soul drains into Ynit's heart and rests within Urain as a vessel. No regeneration, no warp revival, true death, which would be absolutely terrifying to everybody, but especially devastating to regular immortal creatures such as demons that usually upon their death are returned to the warp. It channels Ynit's wrath and ushers in the crusade against she who thirsts. On Fracture Bieltan, demonic Tain from the Mask of Slaanesh corrupted the Infinity Circuit, essentially the Eldar local afterlife, threatening every soul that had been interred and kept safe from the Dark Prince of Pleasure. In desperation, the craft world turned to Urain. She explained that there would be a 7th path, gathering the Crone Sword to awaken Ynit. Reaching into the Wraithbone core, she drew forth Ashuvar, the Sword of Silent Scream, an ancient Bieltan relic hidden inside of the Infinity Circuit for millennia. She entrusted it to the Vaisarch, her guardian, once a Biel-Tan aspect warrior, and then a Drukhari incubus. The blade absorbs life essence, silently feeding in it, and a pale and soundless twilight descends and scream muffles wherever this blade gracefully strikes. During the fracture of Biel-Tan, Asuvar purged the demonic corruption and helped awaken the Yin Khan in one silent essence-draining sweep. The mightiest blade, Vilif Zar, the Sword of Souls, largest and most powerful shape-shifting blade of Quicksilver, waited on the Crone world BL4. Beneath a silver moon, during a Ynnari expedition, they clashed with Urin Rakhav's homunculi and Slaaneshi demons. Amid zones of lifeless spirit stone, the Ykan, the avatar of Unit itself, burst from the earth and seized this blade. It plunged it into demonic throat, reducing armies to ash and unleashing soul energy hurricanes. With Vilif Zar, the Yin Khan fully manifested and turned the tide in seconds, devouring demonic essence en masse, meaning that so far, besides from maybe another weapon on this list, this sword is definitely the most anti-chaos weapon so far. Prince Uriel of Iyanden claimed another weapon called Prince Uriel of Iyanden claimed the Spear of Twilight, a large grave-like crone sword relic of Krafo Iyanden, was sealed in a shrine of Ulfranesh and contains the baleful energies of a dying star. I've gone into quite a bit of detail about Uriel in a former video, but needless to say, this weapon unleashes torrents of fire and flame that burns away anything. However, there's a curse upon this weapon, as wielding it ignites a fiery ember in your soul, which will eventually burn you out. There is supposed to be a fifth crone sword. However, the Keeper of Secrets, Salakshi Hellbane, has stolen it and placed it deep within Slaanesh's very own palace, making retrieving it basically impossible. There are a few interesting rumors right now, or I don't know if there are as much rumors as mad ravings of my own mind, but I like to think that Fulgrim, or at least now that he has returned, has been giving this last crone sword to spite the Eldar and make for very tempting bait, sort of Slaanesh fishing for even more Eldar souls. The Emperor forged his own blade with his psychic might and techno-arcana. This absolutely magnificent mastercrafted blade works like a supreme force weapon, meaning that it's a weapon that strikes both physically but also allows the wielder to channel their psychic might into every strike. The crimson and golden flames burn through material and immaterial alike in every stroke, granting true death to demons and mortals alike. Even the greatest creations of the Chaos Gods, the greater demons, find permanent oblivion when facing this symbol of imperial might. Hidden for 10 millennia by Khorne, it was presented to the resurrected Guilliman, and has now become a symbol of imperial legitimacy. I just have to add here, because I am a huge fan of the Emperor, despite him being written very, very poorly from time to time. One of the few times where we see the Emperor go into battle with his sword, it is seen as from the perspective of a custodian within the webway, where he described that it was like the sun rising. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyways, the Black Templar guard 10 ancient black swords, massive light-drinking weapon blades meant to be wielded by a marine with the title the Emperor's Champion. The original black sword was wielded by Sigismund and was gifted to him during the Siege of Terra by the Emperor's own order through Malcador. This effectively turned Sigismund into a one-man army where he would hunt down traitorous lieges and traitorous champions, and those who wield the weapon today find themselves doing the exact same thing, where they're guided by holy visions and find themselves wielding a blade with much more force than what they would be able to normally. Lion L. Johnson used to wield a weapon known as the Lion Sword, a master-crafted greatsword crafted on Terra by the Emperor's own artificers. This blade was shattered across Guilliman's knee in a fit of rage, and has believed to be lost forever. However, whispers yet persist that the ornate blade seen on the mysterious figure Cypher's back could be the reforged original. The sword itself has no supernatural powers, but those who have witnessed it reports that whenever it slices somebody, that they're burned with a sort of silver flame, which is quite interesting. Now it's time to talk about the orcs. Orcs claim their own legends about equipment and relics, and at this point I have not touched upon really the special power of the Raw, which I will later, because it's important to understand both how orc technology functions, but also the very idea of items gaining power through hype, essentially. Ghazghkull's Gork's Claw, of course spelled with a K, because we are huge orc fans here. This absolute monstrous weapon is a customed oversized hydraulic power claw forged in true orc custom style and named after one of their deities, Gork. It is so large that Ghazghkull, who himself is a giant, had it mounted onto his mega armor, which basically means that he crushes tanks and heroes alike, and I don't think it much matters if he actually hits them with the blunt side or the sharp side of it. Boss Snigrot's Morg's Teeth. These are two enormous blackened combat knives, each the length of a human arm, and are consecrated in the blood of Armageddon's defenders. Wielded by Snigrot, the greatest the greatest orc commando in guerrilla warfare on Armageddon, they have scalped entire patrols without raising a single alarm. There is another weapon, which I firmly believe only works due to the power of war. And that is in my own little headcanon. There exists something called a grot, which is, well, I could go into a rant about orc terminology and races, but basically it's a tiny goblin that follows Ghazghkull around called Makari. And Makari has something that is referred to as the Lucky Stabber. On the tabletop game, Makari has a single attack, and if this attack lands, which it really is not supposed to, it deals something that is called devastating wounds. And let me tell you, this means that from a tabletop perspective, an attack by Makari can kill Terminators and Space Marines. So while I'm a guy who believes in connecting mechanics and lore, I like to think that it's simply because orc hype Makari's little knife so much that it helps Makari find like lucky critical hits on his enemies. But let's be real, it's just a sharpened piece of metal. Now it is time for Chaos Relics. Abaddon wields Dracnion, the End of Empires, born of humanity's first malicious murder and fed by every betrayal since. The demon that this weapon was made from is extremely rare, in that it is independent of any chaos god, and even back then, before it was sealed within the blade, it was feared by every demon and every creature alive. Today, the blade rends reality and devours souls at the merest touch. Its origins traces to the Tower of Silence in Ularan, where Abaddon claimed it during the First Black Crusade, after having navigated a haunted labyrinth guided by a golden figure. Which, okay, there's like an entire video here, but I will continue. In the Fourth Black Crusade, it sundered the gauge of Cromark's citadel, allowing chaos to pour in, meaning that this blade is beyond most things in the galaxy. But speaking of which, here is another one of those. Castellan Garin Crow bears the indestructible Blade of Andvir, a demon sword of so ancient origin that we truly do not know how old this thing is, and it is my absolute favorite among most Chaos relics. First discovered by the apostles of the Blind King during the Ulasid War, the blade corrupted a follower and created a champion who were capable of ravaging 3 entire sectors of space before the Grey Knight intervened. Crow now wields the blade and fights temptation psychically every minute of every day, only using it as a mundane weapon alone. The blade itself, despite being very, very potent and capable of slicing most things in the galaxy, its true power comes with how easily it corrupts anybody nearby, capable of threatening entire sectors. The Demon Primarch Angron has lost many weapons throughout his time, and recently, now that we talked about Grey Knights, I should mention that they have destroyed something called the Black Blade of Angron. But this Demon Primarch is quite resourceful, as he quickly gained a new weapon known as Samniarius. It was forged through quite an interesting process, as Samniarius is actually the name of a greater demon of Slaanesh, who had the worst day when it tried in its arrogance to challenge Angron to combat. Angron, trying to prove a point, took up a simple piece of iron and beat the demon so hard and for so long that effectively he forged a sword by doing so. The blade itself does very little to actually enhance Angron, and as he is basically an avatar of destruction and rage and death already. However, one of the special powers of this blade is that it enhances rage and carnage around him, meaning that those who are on his side, who are already berserkers, become something truly magnificent when they stand by him. The last blade on our list probably has had the most effect on the galaxy, as it has taken part in many of the greatest moments in history. It is called the Anathane. It is a simply looking blade found in an ancient museum in the Kennebrach Empire during the Great Crusade. A blade of both Xenos and warp nature, it has been tainted by Nurgle, and through a special ritual, the blade becomes absolutely lethal to a named target. This is so lethal that merely being grazed by this weapon sends Primarch-level entity into death comas, and a shard of it piercing a body kills the target outright. There are hundreds of more weapons out there in the far galaxy, and each one of them have many stories connected to it. But hey, let me know what you think. Do you want these in great detail or analyses? I might just do it anyway because I think it's fun, but I also would like to know what you think. So anyway, consider leaving a like and a subscription, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.